7-9, baby, I'm a nigga shop.
All right, so welcome everyone to another Monday Night Live, Monday 22nd of June. The months are passing by and we've got another action-packed, fantastic session for you guys tonight. We had about over 200 of you registered for tonight, but I appreciate the weather is beautiful outside. A lot of you guys are working flat out. Today was probably your first day back, so we may have a few late joiners. We will be recording today as well. Let me make sure it is recording. Yep. And then we'll be uploading it onto our site later on as well. What we've got today is a super special session. And the guys we've got on here are not only industry experts in what they do, also very good friends who have been with us guys, myself, Kish, and the Smile team from day one when we first started many, many years ago. So none of these guys need introductions. I'm sure you've seen all their faces. You know all of them before. They are all very active in the dental industry, very active in the dental market, doing what they do. And these guys are our power team. I am honored to have them on today. And again, thank them all for taking times out from their busy schedules to join us today as well. So what we're going to plan to do today is called the future of dentistry. Now, today, we're not going to tell you how the NHS contract is going to be, what the GDC are going to roll out next week, or what the CDO is thinking, because none of us actually know. And if the CDO or anyone did know, we would have had stronger leadership. What we're expecting today is we've got 6 of us guys here who are all working super hard at the forefront of dentistry. And we're hoping with just brushing our heads together, we'll give some insight in what we think the future will be like and how we can prepare now. And that is not only just as practices. This could be guys who want to buy a practice, sell a practice. You could be an associate in a practice. We're going to be touching on a lot of topics, even for you guys still in undergrad, dental school, how you guys can prepare for the future. Because I'm pretty sure when you guys started undergrad 3-4 years ago, dentistry was very different. Things have changed quite a lot. So today we're going to be going through a lot of things. I'll be touching with these guys today, and I'm going to introduce these guys one by one today. So on our expert panel here, firstly, we have got a dear friend, Shaz Memon. How are you doing, Shaz? You good?
Good. Thank you, Jin, for the Friday night feeling on a Monday night. Appreciate that.
Have to. So I'm already practicing. If dentistry goes all down, I'm going to start the DJ career. And that is exactly how I met Shaz 18 years ago. So back at university, when I used to DJ, as a lot of you guys know, Shaz used to do all the flyers for us, which we used to go flyer, and he used to design it for us. I found some of them at home the other day, and I've known Shaz for 18 years. We've both seen each other's journeys grow. Shaz has been my #1 guy for anything marketing, anything to do with media. He's my go-to guy, helped us as individuals grow, but also as a brand, which we'll touch on today as well. So we've got Shaz representing the whole digital marketing, 15th most, was a top influenced dentist or in the dental industry, not even a dentist, and in the top 50.
That's news to me. Is that what it said?
So, congrats on that. So it's great to have you, Shaz. And it'll be good to get your insight into exactly what's going on.
Thank you.
We've also got another very dear friend and a guy I look up to and talk to quite often, Bhatt, who we all know as Mr. Align Alchemy, Mr. Remote Digital Flow, the guru, literally, who, we touch base now and then, and he gives me some words of wisdom that really struck a chord. And one thing I would say about Bhatt, which has been fantastic, is during this lockdown period, the amount of knowledge and support he's given a lot of us dentists in the remote digital field has been fantastic. So Bhatt, my man, how you doing, buddy? Wait. We can't hear you, buddy.
How are you?
Yeah, we can't hear you. Let me get your tunes back on. Let's get him 1 sec. Let's get Bhatt on. Have we got him?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hey, we got you, buddy.
Yeah, I was just saying, I feel overdressed. I should have got a black t-shirt on.
I'm right next to the wardrobe if you're taking it. I can change.
I feel like the old man here, but it's all good, man.
That's all right. You're the guru. We look up to you there. That's right. So,
Undo the top button.
All right, okay.
Bit
There we
risky.
go, man.
Bhatt, how are you doing, buddy? You good?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Fantastic. And I appreciate you coming on today as well. Kish, how you been, bro?
I've been good. It's been a super busy couple of weeks since we've reopened. So we have just been, that's why we took a little break from these webinars last week, because the last 2 weeks we've been just up to our ears in SOPs and this and that, and trying to get everyone used to the non-AGP, AGP world of dentistry that we're living in right now. But it's good to be back on a Monday Night Live with you guys. I'm going to introduce Andy. Andy Acton is the owner and director of Frank Taylor and Associates, one of the leading UK dental sales agents in the country. But not only dental sales agency, they've got a variety of arms that help dentists grow and develop their businesses. So Andy, how you doing, buddy?
All the arms coming in. Very good, very good. Good to see you guys.
Likewise, likewise. And also joining us is Paul Shinwell. Paul, I've known for 12 to 13 years now, Paul.
Yeah, sounds about right.
It's on our very, very first dental practice acquisition many, many years ago. He is a partner at Abraham's Dresden, one of the top legal firms, especially within dentistry in the UK. And he's got a wealth of knowledge. If there's anyone I want in my corner when I'm buying a dental practice, it's Paul, because he knows his stuff inside out and he fights a good fight.
Thank you, Kish. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And Paul, you're looking young, like you're on work experience. I love it.
My wife just berated me for not shaving, but look at you guys.
And a lot of you probably wondering why are Jin and Kish still got a beard? Have they been not fit tested yet? So now you can catch the guys who are actually not working dentistry. Not working, not been fit tested.
Proper obvious now, isn't it?
So look, we're going to go straight into it. And today is about the future and what insights we can get from where everything's going. So the first thing I'm going to ask is to Shaz. And I'm going to ask you, Shaz, how do you see dentistry changing?
From a marketing perspective, there are going to be changes. So what's been interesting is over the last 3 months, Google searches haven't changed too much at all. If anything, they've increased when it comes to searching for dental treatment. And that was a surprise to us because at the start of lockdown, I predicted that searches are going to go down for obvious reasons, but I was completely wrong. So the desire for dental treatment is out there. People have got more money in the bank, right? So elective treatments like Invisalign, the stuff that Bhavin talks about, people have got a lot more money in the bank, no holidays, so they're willing to invest. They just want to know how quickly they can get some of these treatments done. So I'm talking about the easier stuff like Invisalign, right? Or the whitening. So with that existing, and with practice having so much difficulty with seeing these patients, I think all I can say from a marketing perspective is keep your marketing up, but you have to make your communication stronger. So with you not being able to see patients in the way you used to, patients are going to be potentially getting aggravated. And if they call multiple practices, hearing different things, they're getting aggravated with dentists. So the best thing we can do is communicate more, but effectively. So rather than sending lots of long emails with point by point by point, because we're getting that from every type of business and we're not really reading them, send more, but less. So within the first few seconds, I should be able to see what it is you want to deliver to me in this email in terms of communication. Pick up the phone. A human touch goes a long way. Even if you're a very busy practice, find a resource, get someone in to call your patients before an appointment, well before, a week before, few days before, after. So just really nurture them so that after all of this, they become raving fans and brand ambassadors for your practice, right? No one's ever complained about too much communication. They've only ever complained about not understanding and not being communicated to. So I can say from a customer service perspective, definitely over communicate, but quality and less in terms of what you're saying, and keep your brand visibility up. So the fear has been, let's cut our marketing spend, turn everything off, but then you're going invisible. So obviously marketing can be an expensive cost. Review your marketing, but don't go invisible. We want to thrive and not survive.
Fantastic. And obviously, Shaz, you work with a number of dentists. I mean, the amount of dentists and practices you work with is immense, especially private practices that have struggled, unfortunately, due to the lack of help during this period. Looking forward, what kind of things do you think we could implement to help us as well? What kind of measures we can implement?
Sure. So, I mean, look, I don't want to state the obvious, but the obvious is virtual consultations are here to stay. We're all a lot more accustomed to virtual interactions now. So I think that's here to stay. So making sure it's a very clear part of your strategy, not just on your website, your reception team need to know that this is something that you offer. It needs to be on your marketing material. It needs to be on your posters within the practice. So making a clearer point, like just like we have an email address, clearer point, we offer virtual consultations. And being open to the way you do virtual consultations. For example, not everyone has had a Zoom experience this lockdown, but they do use WhatsApp video call maybe, or they might use Skype, or they might use FaceTime. So the more accepting you are of all the different medias, I know it's more work for your team, but if you can get on the same level as someone that's used to the technology, then you're going to have a better chance of working with them. So the more you can integrate in terms of tech that your patients are familiar with, the better chance you've got of success in the long term.
Fantastic. Now, at that point, I'm going to bring in Bhatt because it sort of links in with what Shaz is saying. How do you see dentistry changing, or already what's changed? How do you see it going forward?
Well, as the grandfather here, if we go back 5-6 years, we were prepping teeth and doing veneers and crowns. And then guys like you come in, you pioneered what they call minimally invasive dentistry. And then you put in workflows with digital, right? But the MID concept is tooth-centric. And what the patients are saying is, we want MID, but we want minimal inconvenience dentistry. So guys like myself tried to pioneer what is minimal inconvenience. And pre-COVID, teledentistry, virtual or remote, was actually seen as outsourcing, cost-cutting, or perhaps a lower standard of dentistry. And literally, it's like the Berlin Wall coming down. Overnight, it now becomes the golden standard. So what we're now seeing is a clear pattern. So we can ask Paul about how Abraham's Dresden will be working, but if more and more companies are telling their back end to stay in the suburbs, the overwhelming research that we have as business consultants is a remote worker sitting at home who wants information, education on aligners or something, does not understand why they have to go to a bricks and mortar building for education. And so what they're saying is, we want to access that remotely through teledentistry, Zoom or something. And you know, the barn has opened up, that horse is bolted. What they're then saying is minimal inconveniences. I don't understand why I have to come and see you, let's say for aligners, for 5 minutes to pick up the trays. There must be a better way for us to do business. There must be something different. So what we're seeing is that COVID has just changed behavioral perceptions towards these concepts. And right now, the golden standard is all consultations, information, education is done virtually. We want to actually engineer into our workflows ease, convenience. So, you know, if you're a dental practice and you close at lunchtime, it's like you're saying to your consumer out there, bugger off, we don't care. Because we live in an Amazon click and go world. So practices that understand their end consumer are really winning. And when we can use AI, which in dentistry is a game changer, I'll talk about afterwards, what that means is we're now giving our patients complete confidence and control over the treatment, but it's convenience. And what we're finding is that if we can embed convenience into our workflows, then the future is just absolutely insane.
Fantastic. And what I love about both of you guys is showing the positivity in the industry at the moment, because all we hear and read a lot of social media posts and Facebook is dentistry is doom and gloom. And a lot of these undergrads in messaging are saying, Jin, like, what kind of career have I entered into? And we always say, guys, it's the best career ever. Exactly what Bhatt said, the future is bright. And there's a lot of things we can be doing as well. Going back to Shaz again, in terms of social media, and I know a lot of dentists, yes, the younger guys or those guys that have got more with it are on it. how big is social media in business, and especially dentistry, in terms of growing the practice?
Social media has become a staple for us marketing professionals. So, for example, at my agency, Digimax, we don't offer social media services because we believe that practices should be doing it themselves, right? Posts get the most engagement when they're real. So if you look at posts from other industries, like even if we look at notable figures like celebrities, they get massive engagement because you're getting a peek behind the scenes into the real life of this person. And it's no different to a practice or a practice environment, or even if you're an associate, into your own life, into how you see the world. So at the start of lockdown, I said to people, be sensitive during this time. Don't keep sending out before and after photos. People are going to get confused, right? It's insensitive. So many people on from my audience, they took that advice, and I've had messages recently from 2 individuals saying that all I was posting during lockdown was how I was enjoying myself, the things I was reading, the things I was studying, what I'm supporting. And he said, all those people that had kind of communicated with me before lockdown, they're desperate to come and see me now because they feel like they've got to know me over this time. And said, I didn't post one before and after picture. So a lot of people say to me, my clinical skills aren't perfect yet, or my photography skills aren't perfect. I say those type of pictures can be 10% of your feed. On a platform like Instagram, they want to like you, right? So whatever patients like about you now, they need to see that on Instagram. And with us being so diverse in our style, you know, there are going to be people who are going to be attracted to you. So make it a massive part of your strategy, if you haven't done so already, to integrate, especially a platform like Instagram, not TikTok, Instagram, into your strategy.
See, I mean, Kish took that advice literally and started putting topless photos up of himself. Then the practice has been booming.
Right.
So look, at that point, I mean, obviously, look, you guys are saying dentistry is booming. A lot of people, guys, on the Facebook, on Instagram are saying NHS dentistry and practices, the valuations are dropping. So at this point, I'm going to bring in the main man, Andy. How do you see the future with practices, buddy?
It's really early to tell. I think for me, there's one thing that hasn't changed. Is patient demand. There's always going to be patient demand for dentistry. So when you've got a constant flow of patients, it then comes down to the relative desirability of practices. Associates have been hit hard through this lockdown. Associates are the guys that found themselves in the black hole. As a practice owner, there were grants, there was support, there were subsidies, there were CBILS loans, there were bounce back loans, there was loads of support. As a dentist, as an associate earning £50,000 or more, which accounts for an awful lot of them, the majority, there was nothing there. So it was literally diving into their savings. That's left an awful lot of associates thinking, so I'm really vulnerable because, okay, this is perhaps a once in a generation pandemic, but it's really highlighted the risks and the vulnerability of being an associate. Lots of those associates now are saying, well, the fix for that, the long-term fix, is to get some security, which is to own a business. And if I can buy into a business, I'm not saying it's been easy for guys that own a business. I know for you guys, you know, you've had to manage businesses that haven't been on their feet and delivering services, but you have assets to go back to. So as the world reopened from the 8th of June, you do have an underlying business that you can go back to. That appears to be driving an awful lot of associates from their self-employed status to saying, well, buying a business might actually be a good idea. In terms of what's going to happen to values, NHS practices have always been, since 2006, when the new contract came in, they've always been really, really desirable because it's kind of gilt-edged. The money comes from the government. And we've seen through the pandemic how generous the government has been funding billions into the NHS because it is the lifeblood of keeping our population healthy. And okay, I know that dentistry practice doesn't get the volume of funding and the support that perhaps we'd all like being involved in the profession, but it's still there. So NHS practices are here to stay. Whether the urgent dental centres are going to form part of that in the new structure going forward, we don't know, but the desirability of NHS practices is really strong. Private practices have taken a hit. They've been shut for 3 months. However, so long as you've got a reasonable good local franchise and you've got a good solid patient base, it's going to come back. It might take 3 months, it might take 6 months. It's going to be a bit slow, but it is going to come back. And I think people just need to have confidence that this is just another change that's coming. Just because this has happened, it certainly doesn't mean that dentistry is dead. It doesn't mean it's not a good career. It doesn't mean that you can't run profitable businesses. It just means you're going to have to look at how you operate, think about your cost base, think about how you work and what you want your future practice to be, and perhaps over a 3 to 6 month period, make some adjustments and get there, but make those adjustments sensitively and carefully. Don't kind of just change everything and expect you're going to get immediate dramatic results. So yeah, we've got good demand from associates, practice owners. You're always going to have some practice owners who are going to be like, this is a last straw. I'm out.
Yeah.
So you're going to get people who are looking to get out. But at the moment, it looks like the balance is quite nice. And it feels, from my point of view, it feels a bit pre-COVID. It feels like there's a good supply of people wanting to buy. There's always going to be a proportion of the people wanting to sell. The thing that we don't know yet, but the early indications are good, is we need to make sure the banks are there to provide the funding to enable those transactions to happen. But that will just be a confidence thing, and it might take a month or two for it to come back, but it will.
Fantastic.
On
So
that note,
what you're saying is Frank Taylor might do some real valuations now.
Well, yeah, I mean, but from the beginning, going back to what Shaz was saying about don't talk about your services and be sensitive. We didn't talk about our services for most of lockdown, but there was a real twist and it started to turn. And the mix at the moment, because we're doing valuations again now, and the mix at the moment is only about 25% virtual valuations to 75% visit valuations. People still want to see us, which actually is really nice, because my fear was that we were going to become a virtual business. And yeah, I like mixing with people. I'm quite social, and so are the team. And I thought that would be a real shame if we lost that. But at the moment, it looks and feels like people actually want us to go and visit them, which is good. It's nice.
Definitely. Andy, in terms of, obviously, because we've got a lot of young guys, a lot of young associates, and you touched upon that, because obviously time has been quite difficult for those associates who are in that bracket where they're earning over £50,000, but maybe don't have the NHS backing and the NHS income. In terms of funding as well, from a bank perspective, I know that banks are a little bit cautious at the moment. Say if you're a first-time buyer as an associate, what advice have you got for those guys trying to look for practices?
I think if you're looking to buy a practice and it's your first one, pre-COVID, you'd need about 10 or 15% deposit to put down for a purchase. I would budget and work towards 20% now. We don't quite know what it's going to look like, but I would get a few more quid in the bank account, because that's not going to be a problem. What I would also do is make sure the bank, when you buy a dental practice, there's two considerations. There's you as the individual. What does your CV look like? What's your grossing ability? And then there's a dental practice you're buying. The dental practice is quite straightforward to assess. It's going to have a set of accounts, it's going to have a track record and a history. But you as an individual, it's like, well, okay, you do the dentistry bit, and that's a given. You know, you spend minimum 5 years at dental school, you've got your clinical qualification. But what more have you done to impress the bank that you're equipped to be able to run a successful business? So if you're an associate, don't just stop at doing clinical stuff. Yeah, if there's an opportunity to shadow the principal, you should do that. If you can deputise for the principal when they're not around, you should do that. If you can put yourself on business courses, you should do that. You should start thinking and behaving like a principal before you're a principal. Because I've got this whole thing that if you behave in a certain way, you almost morph into that person. So even if you're an associate, start thinking and behaving like a principal. Then when you find a practice and you present yourself to a bank as a prospective purchaser, you're going to look a lot more credible and a lot more bankable than somebody that says, well, I can do a 350,000 gross. Well, that's great, but do you know what an Excel spreadsheet looks like? Do you know the difference between sales and marketing? Do you know how to manage people? Do you know what leadership is? So spend a bit of time investing in your non-clinical side of things as well as the clinical side. But if you can store, the more cash you can store as a deposit, the better.
Fantastic.
I totally agree with that. And I think, you know, we spent a lot of our time as we were kind of progressing through our career on our educating ourselves, both clinically, you know, going and doing our masters, getting that postgraduate education, but also spending time with people like you guys to get the advice that we need to build a business plan, that power team to help then be able to say to a bank, look, this is what we're about and this is what we're capable of. And that way your strength in your business plan is a lot stronger, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's that thing where the practice is easy to assess. the real investment is in the person. And depending on how ambitious you are, you may not want to stop at one practice. You know, look at you guys. You know, you've got multiple practices, you've got big plans. So you want to make sure your foundations are good. And a lot of people wait till they find the practice and then they start building the foundations. You can do all that before. You can start to go on the courses. Like I say, you can shadow the principal. You can start to add to your skill set now. If the practice doesn't come along for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, it's not lost time. It's not wasted.
Fantastic. So Shaz is saying, keep up with the marketing. The whole social media side is booming. Bhatt is saying the future is amazing. Remote consultations. Andy is saying there are loads of practices coming along. Associates want to keep on buying. But we've got my main man, Paul Shinwell here, who is on the ground doing the deals. He's our lawyer. How is it going, buddy? And how do you see the future and what is happening on the ground with all the deals?
Well, I'm seeing a real mix, actually. It's very difficult to generalize as to how buyers are reacting to what's going on at the moment. So, you know, we've got first-time buyers who are extremely nervous about taking the plunge, generally speaking, right now. And, you know, I've had a few deals fall through as a result, especially with first-time buyers, where they just think, you know what, I just can't take the risk. I don't know where it's going to go. And then you've got the more experienced buyers, perhaps the multiple practice owners, and they're seeing it as an opportunity, and they're just taking the view that in the fullness of time, things will get back to normal. You know, there's a lot of people are worried about the cost of PPE and how that's going to affect profits. But I guess, of course, no one knows how long this whole thing's going to go on for, but ultimately, presumably, the PPE cost is going to be a 1 year, 2 year thing, pretty much. And like Andy was saying, you know, if you've got a private practice, you know, you've been shut down for 3 months, but it's not as if the patients have gone to another practice and you've lost them forever. They haven't gone anywhere. So theoretically, they should come back. So the volume of deals has definitely slowed down. However, I have noticed a lot of those deals that have been paused are starting to get back into motion. There's a few sort of multiple practice owners who are still doing deals for new practices and just carry on regardless. One thing I've noticed is sort of last couple of years, private practices, you know, have obviously come right up through the fore. You know, it was always NHS, and private was sort of, it was like that bit on the side really that people were a bit concerned about. But I think for NHS, just repeating what Andy was saying, really, I think this is probably the best thing ever for NHS practices in a way, because suddenly they just seem like really consistent and solid. So, yeah, I guess it remains to be seen where it's all going.
And look, you and Russell are bright people, and obviously I can assume you've had conversations in your office in central London. How do you guys see the future?
Well, I mean, this probably isn't a good thing to announce, but I mean, Russell and I were talking a couple of months ago, well, probably about a month ago, about the prospect of there being a whole load of fire sales coming on the market. So distressed sellers, really. We're not really thinking about the middle-aged dentists who bought their practice 30 years ago, but more the people that I acted for, say, 5 years ago, who bought a practice with a massive loan, private practice, and suddenly they find themselves with no income. And the bank, you know, of course there's been some government support, but, you know, ultimately the overheads are still there and no income. Having said that, we haven't heard anything, I'm not aware of any practices actually getting into serious trouble at this point, so hopefully it actually won't happen. But I don't know, I feel strangely positive about the whole thing, and I feel strangely that it's starting to ramp up, and I think within the next 2-3 months, I think people will be back on the market. I do, and I think the point Andy has said before about associates is very, very important. I think associates have been hit really hard, and from what I'm hearing from practice owners, is that the plan is to cut associate pay in order to take account of the increased costs in PPE and reduce profits, you know, from the reduction of patients coming through the door. So if that does materialise, I'm not going to ask you if you're cutting your associate pay, but if that does materialise, but if that does materialise, then obviously associates are going to be pushed even further towards the purchasing process, because it's just the only place for them to go, really.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I know there's a lot of talk about the associates and then what life is going to be like in the next few months or going forward. Have you heard anything in terms of people asking you to redo associate agreements and all that kind of stuff at the moment?
Yes, yeah, actually, yes, someone asked me about that today. Yeah, absolutely. People are, yeah, but I mean, I think associates are going to face a difficult time. And I spoke to a multiple practice owner yesterday, and he said he's been inundated. So he owns NHS practices in the north. He says he's been inundated with associates looking for jobs. And before that, he really struggled to get associates because it's sort of, you know, his practices aren't, you know, particularly appealing to sort of young, stylish dentists looking to do high-end work. But all of a sudden, he's like got a lot of people knocking at his door. So I think, I think it could be a difficult time for associates.
Now, this will be, I mean, I personally feel it's a difficult time for associates, but also it's probably the best time for associates as well. And Shaz as well, with his book, Instagram for Dentists, a lot of the guys in the book are associate dentists who have done phenomenally by branding themselves, marketing themselves, and growing themselves as practitioners. So, Shaz, what can associates do to grow themselves? And whilst you look for your book to plug it,
I've got it here.
guys, if you want to ask any questions, put them in the Q&A. If you want to say, if you're a practice owner, if you're an associate dental student, you know, put in the chat group. And if you got any questions, you know, ask these guys. These guys are industry experts. We can ask them anything you want. It's quite an informal chat, so do ask them. But Shaz, what can associates do to really power themselves to become strong?
Great question. So before I answer that, I need to give you some insights into the type of inquiries we've been getting in the last, I think, 18 months. It's safe to say. So started in 2019, where the inquiries for associate websites and associates branding started to slowly sort of build up momentum. So we had 1 inquiry, then we had 3, then it became 10. And before we knew it, we had to build the whole thing at Digimax where we help with branding and websites. One thing was clear: associates are thinking about branding themselves, right? So by branding, I don't mean necessarily, you don't have to have a practice, you don't even need to have a view to own a practice, but when you're offered treatment of a certain value, right, you don't always make up your mind there and then, as you know. You go away, you think about it, and the natural phenomenon is you will Google Jin Vagela, yeah, or Kish, Dr. Kish. You'll Google them and see what comes up. So people want to build up their digital footprint. So one way has been your Instagram profile. If that's strong, that will come up. Your LinkedIn profile. Of course, your website, because with the website, that's where you can really stand out. You're not using a template of Instagram or LinkedIn. You can really put in the content you want and help your practice by saying, these are the practices that I work at. If you want to go one step further and your associates, your principals are happy, you can even start collecting Google reviews, right, for yourself, if that's something that you've coordinated with the practice. So I think associates should definitely brand themselves. You don't need to invest in a professional logo with a company like us if the funds aren't there. There's so many options available. And I know you guys know about some of those options. You can go, it's just something to, you know, put on your before and after pictures, just an emblem that you can evolve over time and build your own website even. We can help you, or you can go to a site like Squarespace, put it together. It's important that your personality comes across in anything that you're putting out there. Patients think that all dentists can do, most patients think that all dentists can do the same job. Yeah, they really don't get all these courses that you go on. For them, one dentist is the same as the other. The way they're making up their mind is based on likability and experience, okay, that you will tell them on your own material. So don't assume they know that you're going on a Smile Dental Academy course. They don't know that. They don't know what that means. They don't know that very few people go on that. You know, they don't know anything. Tell them what they don't know.
Fantastic. And one thing we are all for with the Smile team is empowering our associates. Because like yesterday, I was an associate. I can remember like literally like yesterday, we want to make sure we support our associates and let them fully grow. And I think they can be invaluable members of the team and as a practice as well. Bhatt, how else can we get our associates powered up?
So I right now am an associate, and one thing that I did was I used my experience as a principal, and I told my principal that, I was literally going to go out and bat for him. It's like, when you're in that last over and you've got to hit 6 sixes, right? I was going to be that value-added associate. And what I'm finding as a business coach is my last 5 clients who've signed up, the young associates are saying, we want to move away from NHS, because that's Victorian. We want to embrace digital, minimally invasive, but there's no pathway. So unlike Paul, who could become perhaps a junior partner, these pathways don't exist in dentistry, which exist in medical or legal or other professions. So what they're now doing is saying, what if I take that risk? What if I do my own marketing, go to Shaz, create my brand? What if I generate my own leads? And my last 5 clients have purchased their own scanners. They're doing their own marketing. Their wives or their family members are doing the admin around that. And the conversation we need to have is, if you have an associate who's going out and undertaking that risk, how do they get rewarded? So one guy said to his principal, let me work from 5 to 7 once the doors are closed, and he's working on room rental. So for the principal, he's getting rent, but the associate's keeping 100% of the take. The other associate said to the principal, for all the extra revenue I bring in, 65% is mine, and I'm going to invoice you like a visiting implant surgeon. And what happened was, after 3 months, the principal saw the value and said, I want all this money on my P&L, and in the end invested. So what we need to do is have a conversation where the principal is scared to invest and grow the business. The associate is hungry. How do we come together and find a mechanism where both parties are served and we de-risk it? And if we can come together at this time and figure that out, that's where all the positivity and growth comes from.
Fantastic. And having an associate like that, Andy, how much will it impact the practice in terms of valuations as well?
It's transformational. I think where lots of practices historically have gone wrong is they tend to have been primarily driven by the principal, and the principal has been the star of the show. And it brings 2 main issues. The first issue is they're the biggest grosser. Not great news, because just to say I'm the principal and I'm grossing £500,000. When I sell my practice, somebody has to come in, and unless they can do a like for like, that's going to distort the performance of that business, because you're going to be more reliant on associates to make up that growth. So one, it's not good if you're the star of the show and you're a big grosser. But also, if my name's over the door and it's all about me, trying to extract me from the environment and bring somebody else in isn't good news. So if you can have a body of good quality associates who work within the practice, who all bring in a nice gross and keep it balanced, from a business point of view, in terms of the halo, the umbrella, it's much safer, because I can now take myself out of that business, and the £1 million gross, 850, 900,000 pound of it is being delivered by a core team that's staying behind. It also means if you've got a nice pool of associates, what you tend to also have is a greater range of specialities that can be delivered. And by nature of speciality, you can't be special in everything. You're either a generalist, or you do a bit of general, but you specialize in something. So if you've got a good number of associates who have taken a special interest in endo, perio, ortho, whatever it might be, you end up with a nice team of people, a broader range of services. But from a value point of view, you're de-risking your business, because it's not all about you as a principal, as an individual. You've actually got an underlying business that is profitable and works independent of you. So if you want to take 3 months off every year, you can do it.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And just going back to Bhatt again. So what kind of other things, we touched on the remote consultations as a practice, what we can do. Do you want to speak a bit more on that, please?
Yes, so we use words like remote, which are a bit confusing. So we can say that there's one aspect that happens before. So let's call that teledentistry, Zoom conferencing, or virtual, and that's a triaging thing. Once people start treatment, there's now incredible technologies out there. So I've actually got a little prop here, right? So this here is a cheek retractor. It has a magnetic bit. This box clicks onto it. In front is my smartphone. The smartphone's the important thing because right now, MIT, which is the Michigan Institute of Technology, they've made a lens. If I put it onto my smartphone, it diagnoses cataracts. There's another university that's made something that goes over my smartphone. I put it in my ear and it diagnoses. So right now in dentistry, using technology like this from Straumann called Dent2Go, a patient in their 70s sat at home, popped this in front of their mouth, they tap the screen, and it takes over 200 measurements. And the incredible thing about that smartphone is if you think about the original TomToms and everything, and think of Google Maps, what we understand is as we have augmented reality, VR, AI, as we have all these amazing things that are going straight onto our smartphones, our ability to help people at home has gone through the roof. So today I had 16 patients, 6 of them were Invisalign patients. This might shock you, but of all of those who are using AI, what that means is that they don't see me until the end of treatment. It's like a surgically guided process. At the end of the first week, they take their measurements, their AI makes 200 calculations, and it tells them if that tooth has fully expressed its movement in the aligner. If that tooth has not moved to plan, it holds them there and tells them to keep wearing it. So this is a bit like having a surgical precision stent, but in the AI kind of world. What this means for me is that I'm now having around 80 to 85% of all my aligner cases finishing in the first set of aligners, which I never ever had before. So what we're finding is 2 benefits. Firstly, at the clinical end, because my profitability, predictability has gone through the roof. So we're able to use 6 Sigma or lean processes. So this is the industrialization of dentistry, where just like a car plant would have AI and robots, we can have a similar thing. And the exciting thing for every young associate right now is this is in its infancy. And when we look at how computer science is going, this might surprise you, Jin, but right now there's talk of what looks like a full mouth triple tray. You attach it to your smartphone, it does a full mouth scan, shade and bite in 30 seconds. Wow. So in a world in which that's no longer science fiction, what we're finding is those who are early adapters to digital, who can offer AI and more remote aspects to the care, they're the guys who are going to dominate the market. Because what COVID taught us is that, you know, my mum in her 70s, unfortunately her uncle passed away, so she had a YouTube ceremony. So my mum was jamming with her friends on Zoom with Indian songs and everything, yeah? So there's a whole generation who are now used to digital. People who before who did not embrace digital, the laggards, were forced to embrace digital. And I passionately believe that every associate principal out there, if we don't embrace digital at the patient interface, let's forget the dental interface with CBCTs and scanners. If we don't bring digital into the patient interface, I think we're going to miss a huge opportunity. And that's why when I see young associates investing in themselves, understanding what COVID represents, understanding the behavioral changes within the end consumer, it just makes me so excited.
Beautiful.
I totally agree with all of that, because I think we've had, I know myself and Jin have had so many inquiries about trying to get people to do video consultations, and not only that, like you said, Bhatt, that they don't want to actually come in to collect the aligner, or they just want to be given the aligners and then just be done with the treatment and not have to keep coming to see us. And I think that is something that we all need to embrace, because that is probably the way it's going to be going in the future, 100%.
And the thing to understand is COVID is a Berlin Wall moment. Pre-COVID, all of this was abdicating responsibility, outsourcing, inferior care. Now it's the golden standard. And I don't think we can really ignore it, because that's, you know, it's a click and go Amazon world, and we need to respond to that.
Beautiful. And that's exactly it. I remember that from Shaz's talk as well. Amazon, click and go, that's a whole new market. That's how the whole world is. In terms of just the remote consultations, Bhatt, how do you see NHS practices? Because that's one thing we hear often. I'm an NHS practice, we're set in our way, la-di-da. How do you see that fitting in, and how important is it for these practices?
So with the remote consultation, so right now, I work in a mixed practice. All of the remote consultations are now done by my TCO. So the first thing to understand is, if you are a mixed practice and you have a TCO, I wonder how busy she will be in 2 or 3 months with people wanting to come and ask about Invisalign. So one of the paradigm shifts is, although the associates or the principals may be busy, but if you are a practice where you have a TCO or a nurse and they have flexible working hours, you need to upskill them. Because in the future, your ability to communicate people at their convenience is key. So what I realized was, as an associate, remote consultation was a problem for me, because if I'm seeing a patient, how can I give them pure convenience? So what we're finding is that there are 2 aspects to this. One is triaging diagnosis, one's information. If you're using remote consultations as a way to inform and educate your prospects and to build value so they will give you a deposit for a future appointment, then that's about upskilling and uptraining your team. If, however, it's about triaging, then it's a different concept where we're going to have to find the ways in which we can synchronize a on-site and an online diary. And right now, there are lots of conversations on how to amalgamate the 2 so that we can do that.
Fantastic. And today we're discussing future of dentistry. All these guys on the panel here do believe in giving out education freely, and I support that. So Bhatt has got a lot of information available. Bhatt, where can people find this information about all this remote stuff?
Yes, so if you were to go to my website, alchemy.co.uk, there's a whole page, which is the most comprehensive guide in the UK right now on how to start with remote workflows. And at the same time, we're offering 6 hours of online, on-demand CPD. So the goal is to just open people's eyes as to the opportunities. So recently, I'm in my little office and I was cleaning up during COVID, and my son was asking what this big brick of a camcorder was. And my son couldn't coordinate, why didn't you use your smartphone? And that's how technology changes everything. Yesterday's technologies are already redundant. And the exciting thing about today is that whilst we may see problems with how we put things together, the solutions will be solved by technology. All we need to do is to be in that right frame set, positive mindset, to have a very positive future for the future, over the coming months, to articulate that to our teams, to engage, energize our teams. Because one thing that I found, Jin, was all of my nurses were dying to come back.
Yeah.
They're like, we want to come back, we want to hit our bonuses, we want to secure our futures. And practices who can do that, I don't think they're going to have any issues going forward.
Fantastic. So again, look, Bhav's got a lot of information, and even if anyone wants to reach out to myself and Kish, we've set the whole remote thing. We're not holding any secrets, or we will share the information with you guys, how we've set it up. There's loads of different methods, so do reach out to us as well. And another thing Bhatt touched on was teamwork and how the team has behaved and how it is during this COVID times. So I know Andy's very passionate, and we've had long conversations about leadership and stuff. And so I know some of the guys have been asking in the Q&A about leadership. How important is this for a practice, especially in the current climate we're in?
It's critical, absolutely critical. If there isn't strong leadership, you can't reasonably expect people to follow you. And I think there's 4 characteristics of strong leadership. You need vision. So you need to clearly know where you're going and how you're going to get there, and what are the tools you need to achieve that. You need focus, because without focus, you're going to get distracted. You know, Shaz and I were having a conversation just earlier on this afternoon about how easy it is to get distracted with social media platforms and emails and people just jumping in on your timeline all the time and trying to disrupt your day. So you need your vision, you need your focus. You also need authenticity, because as a leader within a business, if you're not authentic and you don't truly believe it, people spot it. You know, we can smell a certain thing from a long distance. And if you're not authentic in how you behave and how you feel and the message you're delivering, people spot it and they don't want to be around. But if it is authentic, it's a powerful thing. People love to follow strong leaders. And then the last thing is you need self-belief. If you don't have self-belief, there's going to be some tough days. And I'm sure everyone's had tough days since lockdown and to where we are now. Most days are really good and we're all being really positive. But we need to acknowledge there will be days when you'll wake up and you'll think, geez, I don't know if I can do it. But that self-belief is really strong. So without strong leadership, as a business and as an individual, you're going to really, really struggle. And if you want to have a practice that does really well, you need that vision. You need those characteristics from day one. I saw one of the questions was about leadership and kind of, what to do. And leadership is one of those things that I think you've got to be really careful kind of going and learning about leadership. I think it's good to understand the characteristics you need and the principles, but I think you need to find your own style and your own way of doing it, because Richard Branson has a particular style of leadership, and so did Margaret Thatcher. They're two completely different people who are phenomenally successful in their respective fields, but their leadership styles don't really compare, but they both are very successful. So leadership's about the style that works for you, but it has to start with vision, focus, authenticity, and self-belief, because if you don't have those, you're going to really struggle. I actually did a bit of presentation on leadership for another group a couple of months ago. And so I've got a recording of it somewhere. And Jin and Kish, if you want it, I'll find it. I'll send it over to you. And if the guys in the group are interested, you can share it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And I think that is very important. Kish, go for it.
I was just going to say, I think both Shaz and Andy have both spoken about the same thing, which is authenticity, especially in our field of work. Patients want to be able to trust you as a dentist. Your team wants to be able to trust you as a leader. And part of that, as you said, is authenticity and being honest and showing what you are about personally as well. And that authenticity will then give you your style as a leader or as a dentist as well. And that will make your whole career progression, it'll put you on the right path, as long as you stick to that and focus on you first to then develop yourself in that respect.
And again, look, a lot of you guys may not be learned from being a leadership. These are skills that can be taught. Same as communication skills. You can learn these skills. Same way we all learn cramp reps and being fancy composites. These are all taught skills. Tune in next Monday where myself and Ali will be touching a lot of topics of NLP, communication skills, managing styles. So we'll touch on that as well. But Paul, I'm going to ask you in terms of associates who want to jump on the ladder or buy a practice.
Yeah.
And that's one thing Andy was saying. A lot of associates want to buy a practice. What advice would you give them? A couple of words of advice.
I think the biggest piece of advice I can give, and I guess it's quite obvious really, but the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone buying a practice is to bear in mind that the person you're buying from is probably of a certain age and has been a dental practice and has been the king of their own castle for 30 years. And it's so important to treat them, even if you don't really mean it, just treat them as if they're in charge and manage their ego, as ridiculous as that sounds. And because if you can build a relationship with the person you're buying from and with the people that you in the team that you're buying into, it builds a foundation for success. Because there's been clients that I've acted for buying a practice who just pick an argument all the time, want this, want that, want the other, no matter how petty. Well, actually, I got to say, you guys are the complete opposite. You manage the sellers. You no matter how,
easier.
Sorry?
Don't say too much. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, but it's just about being nice and about being respectful, as ridiculous as that sounds. And not wanting to get in there and just cut everyone's wages and get rid of Mr. X and Mrs. Y. You've got to keep the team on board with you, and they've got to respect you, and you've got to, and also, a lot of the time the seller stays on as an associate after completion, and it can be quite tricky for them to move from the transition of being in charge to somebody being an associate. And I think you just need to bear that in mind and not sort of get in there with a clipboard the following day and say, right, we're going to cut this cost, cut that cost, cut the other cost, and going to sort this place out, because it just everyone turns on you. And I just find the most successful people build the relationships the practices they're buying into. But I think it's a very exciting time for associates, really, in terms of practices, in terms of buying practices, because there's going to be a lot of sellers as a result of this who are just going to be, you know what, CQC pushed me, but this is going to push me over the edge, and there's people who are going to want to sell, and what I'm seeing quite a lot of is, where they're on nerves, especially with private practices, about a drop in income, is, you can now structure the deals with, you can hold back some money and say, as and when turnover returns to normal, we'll pay you the rest. And therefore, the seller is comfortable because they're confident the practice will return. And from your point of view, you're secure in case it never does.
Fantastic advice. And Paul, what advice would you give to people who want to sell their practice? Any words of wisdom from your experience as well?
The due diligence process has developed since I joined the industry in 2006. It wasn't even that long ago, but the due diligence process has expanded so enormously, and the banks are much more heavily involved. They have their own solicitors, and essentially they need to get their practice in order as soon as possible. Try and get rid of all the inconsistencies, all the crappy leases, or things that aren't certified. I think they need to sort their practice out before they go on the market, or at least look into it and start the process, because what they don't want to do is sort of go blindly into a sale, agree a deal, and then as the due diligence process goes on, it takes ages and ages and ages because they haven't got anything together, and then issues come up and things delay. And I'd look at the elements of your practice now, the property, the NHS, if you've got your associate agreements, your employment contracts, your equipment certification, and all the Legionella, fire risk assessment, and all that sort of nonsense that they have to provide. Just make sure you've got it in order, because you will have to provide it.
Because I know you've done a lot of dual representation, so where you act on behalf of the bank and the buyer as well. Have you found, because of COVID, has there been a lot more in terms of the due diligence that's required? Or is it...
Well, I've noticed, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, but where Lloyds are lending, Lloyds have become a lot more conservative as a result of this, and they're actively saying we will only complete on these deals once practices are back up and running and turnover is back where it was. So that's obviously putting a huge delay in transactions, because it is going to take a while. But the banks still actually seem fairly keen to lend, actually. I guess that's how they make their money. So I think as long as you present to them a good practice, and also that you are someone that they want to lend to, I think it appears that it's still pretty much business as usual.
I mean, I agree with that, because I think, obviously, if you look at some of the other sectors that have been hit so hard by COVID-19, the dental sector, yes, it's been hit hard, and it's been it's been quite chaotic. But overall, the bigger picture is that it will recover. It's still a healthcare service, so people still need going forward. So there's still a lot of faith from the banks in terms of lending. And
absolutely. I think so, because ultimately, as you say, it's a healthcare service, and people are still going to need to see dentists. So by definition, the customers aren't going anywhere, the patients aren't going anywhere. So no, I think they're still up for it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Paul. So we're looking at what we can implement now to get ready for the future. Shaz, what could we implement in practice now, whether it's as an associate or as a practice as a whole, whether it's NHS or private? What can we do to set ourselves up for the future?
Upgrade your communications, right? So if someone's contacting you, don't delay in replying to them. The faster you reply, the higher chance you've got of success. So on a platform like Instagram, there's a feature called quick replies. Set your quick replies up, okay? How many times have we been into a place to transact, buy a car, and we've just been fobbed off because we don't look right that day, right? Sometimes people are coming in with inquiries which don't sound correct, or take the format of someone who's very interested. We can be quite quick to make a judgment, and over time I call it reply fatigue. So your first replies are going to be really enthusiastic, really colorful. And over time, when someone says, how much is Invisalign, you're going to just reply back with the price, right? We don't want to do that. We want consistent quality communications and fast. So pre-design your replies, make them short to the point with whatever they want to know. So what will it cost? What will it take from them in terms of investment of time, what to expect and what they can do next, right? So if I've thought about something and I've found you and I've contacted you, at that point I'm quite warm. If you take 3 hours to reply or even 3 days because, oh, I don't check my Instagram much, you've lost me, right? So all that investment you've made has gone. Go one step further, okay? Send a voice note. Don't say, thank you for your inquiry. Say, we would love to see you at our practice, Kish. Please, can you tell us a time where we could have a face-to-face consultation so I can understand what it is that you're looking for at, with this treatment? You know, spend more time with your patients, essentially what I'm saying. So upgrade your communications, but use the social channels to your advantage.
Brilliant. Just on that note of voice notes, I mean, I thought it was like a millennial thing, and these new millennials don't want to pick up their phone, are too scared. What is up with these voice notes? Until I got one from Bhatt this afternoon, their grandmother. I'm like, you could have wrote that in 2 minutes. You sent me all these voice notes, like long messages. What's up with that?
So voice notes, amazing. And I'm so pleased you said millennials, right? Because that's the next thing I want to speak about. So millennials are lazy, okay? Millennials have said they're lazy, right? Bhatt has got a great Facebook group called Remote Digital Workflows. And he even interviewed a patient of his who's an influencer who further enforced something that I was afraid to say publicly. Millennials are lazy unless it's in the pursuit of something that they really want. When they really want something, all of a sudden, full energy, calls, messages, texts, and they want the answers there and then. So voice notes allows them to see that it's not a robotic response. They've got the money, they're a lot fussy about who they work with, and you've got to really make the effort to win them over.
It gives
Once you have, they'll tell everyone.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Amazing insight, Shaz. And how can we access these patients during the current times? Because obviously our foot flow in this practice is reduced. How can we access patients now to increase our private revenue?
There's a host of things we can be doing right now. So it's nothing you haven't heard of before. Things like search engine optimization, okay? Things like getting more followers. So in my book, I mean, obviously I'm going to tell you that it's in my book because it's in more detail there, but I talk about getting real followers, okay, in your local area. So this strategy is for finding out where your patients lie geographically and targeting them. So you can do that on Instagram, for example, by looking at the followers of the local cafe, local Costa. Okay, if someone's following the local Costa or the local cinema, you know they live in your area, you go and like 3 of their pictures, they get a dopamine release because they see heart icons appear on their phone. Okay, they will look at who is sending those heart icons, they might follow you back. We found 10 to 20% conversion rate with that. So what you want to do is get more followers and then keep sending out messaging to them. So you don't have to make posts, but you could make stories. Every time someone's logging onto Instagram, they're saying to you, brainwash me for free. A bit like TV advertising, you know, the ads in between, brainwash me for free. So I would say just stay as active as possible and look at growing your audience authentically. Buy my book.
Just to point out, the proceeds of the book are not paying for Shaz's sports car or the company. Every penny is going to charity, Wells on Wheels, which Shaz is the founder. Andy is a trustee on it, and which we support as well. So Wells on Wheels, which Shaz set up about a year ago. I think fantastic stuff in the South Asian continent. Do look it up as well. And it's something which everyone in this group is heavily involved with, charity, which is fantastic as well.
Thank you.
Andy, what can a practice do to get ready for the future?
I think there's 3 elements to being successful in practice going forward. I think there's the speed at which you work, there's the productivity, what you're doing, and then there's the prices that you charge. Let's park price because price is sensitive in terms of, I think the cost of PPE is disproportionate at the moment. It's going to come down. So I don't think we quite know what the new price levels are going to look like. But if you look at pace and productivity, which are the 2 things that you've got control over as a practice owner or somebody working in a practice. It's hard to truly influence the speed at which you work at the moment, because you've got, you know, donning and doffing and fallow periods and PPE and all. You know, you've been forced to slow down. One thing that we do have, which I don't think has necessarily been factored in to the extent it needs to at the moment, is we've got 24 hours in a day. There are still so many practices that are doing a 9 to 5 and shutting 1 to 2 for lunch. And if you do the maths and you work out what you've lost in the ability to see patients on your traditional hours, it's not that complicated to then say, so what do we need to do with our opening hours in terms of extending our opening hours to actually get us back to where we need to be? Okay, it might not be popular, but you know, if the answer is you want to get your numbers back to where they were before, perhaps 9 to 5 and 1 to 2 for lunch is dentistry 1.0, and dentistry 2.0 is 8 in the morning till 8 at night and 9 till 12 on a Saturday. Like I say, you know, it might not be a popular thing to say, but the reality is, if you want to get your numbers up and you can't see the number of patients you could because of the new way of working, if you extend your hours, you're going to be able to see more patients. I think there's also some, and this is kind of Bavin's area in terms of workflows, but thinking about productivity. So when a patient comes to the practice, make sure you maximize the time with that patient. You don't really want people coming in for an examination and then disappearing off and having to go through the whole process of resetting that surgery for another examination. Ideally, you want to get your workflows in a style so that you can maximize the revenue per surgery per day, which does mean clever diary planning, diary management. It means good triaging of patients before they come in and when they get booked, so that your flow through the practice, you know, that surgery time is when you make money. Everything else is a cost. So it's only when you've got a patient in the chair, that's when the tills ring in. And that's the most important time. And everything in the practice should be engineered and structured to make that surgery time as efficient as possible. So I think there's something about opening hours. I think people should review the hours they open. And outside of the whole COVID thing, I think depending on where practices are, the opening hours should reflect the profile of the practice and the demographic of your patient base anyway. So for example, if you're in a commuter belt and you have people that trot in and out of the city for their jobs, and you're not doing a 7 o'clock in the morning slot or a 9 o'clock at night slot to catch people either before they go into the city or at the end of the day, you're missing a massive opportunity. So some of these things should have been thought at before the pandemic, but now they've become even more important. So I think the opening hours and making sure that your workflow in the practice is as efficient as possible, I think those two things will have a massive impact on the financial performance of the practice.
And these are real gems of insight. I mean, even for us guys, it's exactly what Andy said. We haven't chatted about this before. This is exactly what we've implemented in our practices to make it more efficient as well. And as practice owners, what we're looking at is something called EBITDA, which we got messaged quite often. Jin, what's EBITDA? When you're buying a practice, what does it mean? So just to touch on that, Andy, do you want to explain what EBITDA is and how it works in valuations and what exactly is?
Yeah, sure. So what you've got is very simply on a set of accounts. For no one's ever seen a set of accounts, you start with turnover at the top end. So this is the income that comes into the practice. And then everything below that are expenses. So you're going to have labs, materials, hygienists, staff costs, rent, rates, light, heat, and everything else. And at the bottom, you're then ending up with a net profit figure. And the EBITDA is the earnings, which is the turnover before, and then you add back to the earnings figure interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Depreciation and amortization is effectively the same thing. They're both just depreciation, but they relate to different assets on the balance sheet. And what that gives you is that gives you an underlying profit within the business before you get to the person that needs to take out the earnings for themselves. So the shareholders by way of salaries or dividends. The reason that the EBITDA is important is because when you're buying a business, effectively that's what you're going to be buying. You're going to be buying the EBITDA. It's worth remembering that EBITDA is a very traditional, some might say old-fashioned way, an accounting method to work out what the underlying profit is. The nature of dental practices is that quite often they're run as a lifestyle business. So what you could reasonably do is to the EBITDA, you can start adding some extra things back as well. So for example, if I own a dental practice and I decided to go to the Greater New York Dental Meeting once a year, and that might cost me £5,000, that would be a very allowable business expense, but that might appear in my accounts as a course. So we've got a £5,000 cost in there. So you've got your EBITDA figure, and then you've got things that might get added to end up with an adjusted net profit figure. But as somebody who's buying a business, that's the number you need to be focusing on, because the turnover is absolute. But ultimately, it's going to be the EBITDA and anything that can be reasonably added to that that's going to pay you your income, it's going to pay your bank loan, and it's going to give you money left over, which is going to be your reinvestment in the practice. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated.
Oh, no, that's perfect. And I think Chris even said that's a perfect explanation of EBITDA. And I know
very sweet of him.
having his little teeth. A lot of guys, we've got a variety of people watching, from practice owners to undergrads to guys who want to buy a practice. If anyone is interested, do reach out to us. More than happy to help out, as are these guys in the group as well. Paul, what can we do in the practice to get us ready for the future? Let's get your crystal ball out.
What as in existing practice owners?
Yeah,
what can you do?
Practice associate. What can anyone do as a dentist in our practice to gear ourselves up?
Well, I think something Shaz said before that I haven't really thought about too much, but in terms of branding, in terms of, I guess it was more for associates, but I acted with someone that bought a practice. It was her first practice in quite an exclusive part of sort of West Central London. Completed a few months ago, and I was looking at her internet presence. I'd actually never seen anything like it, and she was actually buying the practice that she was working in, and because she built up this incredible internet presence at that practice over a number of years, she just had this incredible position of power as against the principal, the person selling to her, really, because in essence she had become the practice without actually owning it. And then obviously it's quite it's quite a specific situation, and but I think it just feeds back to the power of building up a brand, and just sort of appealing to the new wave of I guess younger generations of people who are looking for not just somewhere to get your teeth fixed, but somewhere where they want to go and somewhere that makes them feel good when they go. And I think that's going to be a big part of, particularly for private practice. I think that's going to be a big part of the future in the immediate future.
We see quite often as well with associates, and there's a number of these cases where associates have become the power players in the practice. While we set the academy up, we are all for associates to push, keep on growing, and keep the power in your hands.
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's very important, and essentially you build up your own goodwill without actually owning it. But that's sort of fraught with other issues as well. You've got, I've acted for plenty of practice owners who have found themselves in very difficult situations where, they've got a practice, they've got an associate that's been there for 5-10 years. The associate is an enormous grocer, and it suddenly dawns on the practice owner that they don't have an associate agreement. And essentially what that means is that the associate is under no restrictions whatsoever. And while it's not technically their goodwill, if they move to a practice down the road, they'll be perfectly entitled to, and if the patients follow them, then so be it. So that's it's just something for practice owners to think about.
Thank you for that.
On the back of that, actually, I've got a question for Shaz, because we have a lot of young associates, young dentists asking us, is it really necessary to build an Instagram profile for their dental career? And there's a lot of kind of animosity or kind of anxiety about doing that. But Shaz, what advice would you have for these young dentists who are trying to put, or cautious about putting themselves out there?
Let me ask you a question back. What's the anxiety about? Do you know? Whether
they'll be judged if their work's enough, whether they'll be judged by their family as to why they're just putting up dental pictures all the time. Loads of different scenarios. But the main thing is, I feel, is the clinical aspect. They'll be judged on that.
Absolutely. So with an industry like dentistry, where is so subjective. I mean, you could have 20, you could both be offering the same treatment and one's got 20 years more experience on the other. Obviously, a newcomer, particularly associate, is nervous about being judged on something they believe is still a work in progress. So the patient might be happy, but the dentist is struggling to put that case up because he feels it will be judged by his peers. Now, I think peers are an essential part of dentistry. We learn from them. They teach us the way to do things, okay? There's always room for improvement. But what we've got to remember is that if your case is good enough, then it's good enough to post, right? Good enough for who? Good enough for your patient. Does it meet criteria? Did you do your best? So the dentistry you do today might be different to the dentistry you do in 20 years. That doesn't mean that you don't promote yourself. We're very well aware of the fact, like even Paul mentioned, that associates are power players now. They almost are like owners of the practice in some cases, and I think I know who Paul's referring to, because they've not been shy in showcasing their work, whatever it looks like. We got to remember from the patient's perspective, that is 10 out of 10. Right? They're not looking at the proportions the way other dentists are looking at the proportions. So I would say the more miserable senior dentists who think that associates don't have a right on this platform to be promoting themselves, they're not really the audience for you as associates. Do not be afraid of them. Be respectful about their feedback, but do not care about what they think, because they're not the ones who are going to buy you a practice or build your brand for you. You've got to put yourself out there. Don't be anxious about it if you can. Just go and put your cases up. And I say in my book, as time goes on, you might look at that case and think, what was I thinking, right? You can archive that. So you can start hiding bits of your past and focus on the future. Just go out there. If you hide yourself, someone's going to overtake you who might not deserve to, because you feel you've been doing it longer. Don't be shy. Just post your cases out.
That is something I strongly believe in. If you're doing good work, put it out there, keep on going. And the most important thing is build that support network around you that will positively let you grow as well. Coming on to Bhatt. Bhatt, what can we implement in practice to get us?
All right, I have a list. So the first thing is we recognize video consultations are the way forward. All clinicians understand if you want to build beautiful mamelons, translucent opacities, you have to practice that skill. So the idea that one day we're going to start doing video consults, it doesn't work. So what we're saying right now is every associate should be calling their list for the next day. Invite your next day patients to have a video chat, because firstly, everybody has a COVID story that they want to share. When you're decked up in your PPE, it's really hard to emotionally connect when someone's telling their story that's either about homeschooling, losing someone, or how they're isolated. And what you're going to find is when you communicate in the surgery, because that patient is scared and they're nervous, they don't perhaps look so much at your non-verbal communication. When you're on this platform, if you don't have excitement, energy, if you're not smiling, what you're going to find is you won't be able to communicate clearly. So right now, it's a great time to have a video chat with your patients the next day, explain what's happening, because if you think about that person coming to see you tomorrow, Jin, if you're working with your whole setup you got here, right? That person's been to the chippy, they've been to the greasy spoon, no PPE, no thermometer, nothing. And when they come to a dental practice, they're scared because in their minds, it's not safe being here because there's a lot of fuss going on and they don't understand. So we need to use video consultation as a way to overcome those barriers so they understand what's happening. So first, get used to using video because that is the future. The second thing is we all need to be what I call the CEO, the Chief Energy Officer, because we may hit a second spike, we may hit a very deep V. As an associate, you need to be positive, appreciative, in gratitude. People should be looking forward to seeing you that day, because if you can have that amount of effectiveness, not in a microbiological sense, but if people want to be around you, you're going to carry your team. So how can we all be that Chief Energy Officer? And the last thing we need to do is understand that everything is digital. It's not about scanners or CBCTs. It's about the patient end. How do we make dentistry accessible and convenient? Let's break down the whole process and let's communicate. So when I sent you that voice message, it's not, well, I'm a lazy git firstly, but I have to learn to communicate in a way that my end client does, because that's the ultimate sign of respect. And therefore we need to adjust who we are and how we do it. We have this very simple analogy that we use, is that if you think about coal, it's carbon, right? If you work on it, it becomes a diamond. But the value is about the clarity. And right now, we've got to work on the cut of the business. But if we focus on the clarity and the messaging that we're giving ourselves, the clarity of the message to our teams, the clarity of that message to our clients, that's where we get to experience growth. And that's where the opportunities lie, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely fantastic. And even I'm learning new terminology, which Kish even knows I'm going to apply tomorrow. I'm going to get a CEO t-shirt made tomorrow, Chief Energy Officer.
What it's all about, bro.
I love it. That is absolutely amazing. So what we've done today is touched on the future of dentistry and what we can apply into practice. What I want to do is go through a couple of questions, and then we will go through the last bits. So Hassan is asking, and I'll ask you, Andy. What leadership courses do you recommend? And just to say, Hassan, hope you're well, buddy. Myself, Ali, who you know as well, we've done a PG cert in leadership mentoring. That is a very formal way. But what myself and Andy always talking about is the practicality of it when it comes to leadership. So Ali, Andy, what leadership courses do you recommend?
Well, I think without kind of blowing the smoke, I think you guys, in terms of how you run your business, how you've built it, how you work with your team, I think if the person asking the question or anybody listening today hasn't done that yet, they should most definitely look to you guys, because in terms of setting a new benchmark in dentistry, you're right there at the front. So within dentistry, I think you guys are setting a superb standard. I think outside of dentistry, it's like I said before, I think there's a good idea to understand the principles of leadership. But I think it's more important to look at people, and lots of different people who either you admire or you respect. And they haven't got to be, the Richard Branson. They might just be the principal you're working for. It might be a guy that runs a local store that you know, or somebody who runs a garage. You can get great leaders from loads of different places. And the important thing is to keep a notebook and just grab those little traits and those little characteristics that impress you about people, but also look to grab the things about people that you don't like as well. Over my life, I've learned as much from people who are good at stuff as I have from people who are bad at things. And it's like, well, I'd never treat somebody like that. So if you'd never treat them like that, how would you treat them? And start to build your own DNA of what leadership means for you. And it goes back to, and it's been mentioned a few times today, it's about authenticity. I'll share the leadership presentation with you guys. It's about half an hour, and it goes through the principles of what's required. But in there's also a reading list as well. And there's about 8 to 10 books that I've read over the years that I found really good. One of them that is fascinating is by a lady called Carol Dweck, and she wrote a book called Mindset. And effectively, there's 2 types of mindset. There's fixed mindset and there's growth mindset. Fixed mindset, you see problems in everything. You assume that the human capability is already preset. People can't grow. Growth mindset is all about persisting in the face of setbacks and always looking to get to the next level. So there's some really good material out there, but some of it comes down to how you learn. I love seeing things and being able to apply it in a real context quite quickly. That's how I learn. I don't learn from sitting reading a book. It doesn't interest me. Podcasts, little snippets here and there that I can apply. That works really well for me. But I can share my reading list, no problem at all. But I would recommend the guys most definitely have a look at your own course. But just keep your eyes and ears open and just see the good things that are going on there. I think once you understand the principles of leadership and what it actually means, you then have a framework for where you can start putting things in that suit you.
Have we just lost him?
I didn't know if you were stunned into silence.
Perfect.
You just froze.
Yeah, I was like, brilliant. Thank you for that. And again, Hassan, if you reach out to me, I'll put you in touch with Andy as well. As I said, Andy's built a phenomenal business not just the practice side, but a lot of the things he's done. So be a good guy to chat to as well. Satyam's got a question here. And I'm going to ask Paul this because it'd be good to get a non-clinical input into this. So Satyam is asking, for dental students going to the final year, what are the skills we should be focusing on refining and still focus on just getting the basics down? Is there anything extra we could look into to help in this new environment?
I think business, is probably an obvious place to go. I mean, gone are the days of, you would acquire a practice just by buying a building and then just starting up. The NHS would just give you a contract perhaps, and that would be it, and it would just build itself. I think now it's become extremely business focused, and I think the banks expect to see that you have a knowledge of business and cash flow and an understanding of marketing and all the rest of it. And I think that is probably a side that definitely needs to be focused on, obviously in addition to the clinical side of things. We see, I mean, some of the first-time buyers that I see now are just mind-blowingly sophisticated when it comes to business side of things. And just can't recommend enough really having an understanding of how business works.
Fantastic. Shaz, what do you recommend for undergrads?
Undergrads, I think they should start thinking about building their own brand. Okay, not many undergrads I've seen have been that proactive in thinking about building their own brand because they just feel we're not ready for it yet. Maybe for some of the reasons that Kish said, that we're a work in progress, we're not the finished article yet. Truth is, the finished article doesn't exist. Okay, so take the first steps, start thinking about it, start planning what you would put out there. Find some role models who are doing it well. Look at people who inspire you. Do not try and imitate. Okay, look at other people and then try and find your own voice and reach out to me if you want help. I help loads of undergrads who message me all the time. I'll show you how you can amplify your own voice in the right way so you appeal to many people. And going back to Amazon, something I talk about in my webinars, when we look at the Amazon buy now page, right? It looks quite basic to the naked eye, untrained eye. It's just a picture, buy button. But millions of dollars have been invested into this page. We've got behavioral psychologists, user experience specialists. We're all wired so differently. When I look at that page, I'm looking for speed of delivery. Kish might be looking at reviews. Jim might be looking at price. Someone else is looking at the quality of the picture. We need to engage our captive audience within seconds. So as an associate, undergrad, whatever it might be, you want to make sure that your audience that you're communicating to, or the type of patients you wish to treat, the type of work you're interested in, they're seeing the kind of thing that would hook them very quickly without hunting for it. So just start thinking about it. So when you're in the position to make big, bold moves, you're already educated.
Fantastic.
Just want to add to that as well, just quickly, because I know that a lot of undergrads feel, again, it's the confidence issue that they need to get the letters doctor or the BDS after their name to start promoting themselves. So, again, I would say just start from when you're in university, get used to it, build yourself on that platform.
Definitely agree. And Bhatt, just to get your insight, what would you recommend to undergrads?
Be excited. It's the best time ever to be in dentistry. It really is unreal. Be excited. You're at that point where you will not be doing Victorian dentistry like people like me have done. And understand the skills that help me are irrelevant to you. For you, it's about grit, tenacity, resilience, and to think differently. Because if we think about what's happening in the world right now, it's those who can monetize, systemize, and solve problems. If you can unleash the entrepreneur inside, then I think dentistry is going to just be incredible, and just go for it.
Fantastic. That's what I love. Positivity. So look, today, guys, we've given you a full insight into the future, what we think in our own way, what could be happening. Kish, anything you want to add, buddy?
I just wanted to say exactly that. I think, keep positive. I mean, we always say out of any chaos or period of chaos, there's always opportunity. And I know we've been talking a lot about leadership and staying positive. Just remember, there's always a solution to every problem. And you take that approach in life, grass is always greener on that side. So just keep pushing and keep growing.
And the last thing I want to touch on, which is something which we as a Smile Academy, Smile Clinic Group, believe a lot in, and it's very important, is stress, mental well-being, especially amongst us men as well. I know all of you guys as panelists are super busy. You've all got little ones at home, multiple little ones, some of you guys, big families, running big businesses. How have you been coping with the COVID time and stress? So I'm gonna ask Paul first. Obviously you've been on parental leave for like the last 4 years. How you been coping? How do you cope with stress and all this stuff? How you been coping with it, buddy?
Oh, well, I have a swing ball in the garden, actually, which takes a real battering. We recently, about 6 months ago, moved from a larger house to a smaller house in a nicer area, which I thought was a terrific move, because I wasn't quite envisaging working in the kitchen, which is what's happening. So it's quite testing. It's quite testing at times, but how do I cope with stress? Yeah, man, I'm not sure I really do, really.
Just too laid back. Shaz, mindset, something we were discussing today. What do you do?
Like you said, I really liked what you said, that there's a solution to every problem. So, I mean, and it's also if you see things as a problem. So for me, my stress levels haven't changed. If anything, I've got less stress because I've got more time at home. So when I was at work, I was thinking, I wish I had more time at home. Now I've got more time at home. It's like, everything's feeling a lot better. So what's happening in the world aside, I've got a 3-year-old daughter. I can spend more time with her. I've got a lot more time for myself to educate myself. So I'm just embracing this because we might not have it again. That should be a blessing as well if we don't have it again. But I think we were all wishing for this time. Obviously not in these circumstances. So my stress has actually been a lot lower than it's ever been. And knowing that the team can still work remotely, it's been actually a massive, massive blessing. We've been able to spend time to build our business, hire more people. There's a lot more experienced people in the marketplace seeking employment. So we've used this time as a massive advantage for our organization to be better, right? And also putting out webinars, that's something that I've never done before, being able to get out of the comfort zone to grow. So for me, it's actually been quite the opposite. If I do not think about what's going on in the world, just me in an isolated box, stress levels have been extremely low for me.
Fantastic. Andy, how have you been coping with stress? Or how do you cope with stress and mental well-being?
About 20 years ago, I had this whole thing that I only worry about things I can control. So it's that real control the controllables, isn't it? There's a pile of stuff that we can't control, and I'm not going to worry about it because I can't influence it. And that's where stress will come. I think you can manage things within your life so you can keep your own personal stress levels at a reasonable level. Because stress within reasonable levels isn't actually a bad thing as long as you manage it and you work it well. I think where stress becomes unbearable is when you worry about things you can't control. So I think if you focus on the things you can control, then actually you're going to start from a better place. I'm also really fortunate in that there's a bunch of directors within the group, and we all work together. We all share out the responsibility. So it's not one person on their own. We make sure we always talk at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And if anyone's having a bad day, we talk in between as well. And it's one thing that I'm conscious that we've got a bunch of blokes on here today. We're not great at is we're not that great at talking about stuff. And I think through this, because we've not been able to physically get with people, we've needed to talk more. We can't physically sit with people. So we do more webinars and we spend more time on house party or FaceTime or phone calls or whatever. But it does mean that there's more communication going on. And I think what spills out of that is blokes in particular speaking a bit more honestly and a bit more openly. And if that can carry on, then that's got to be a good thing. But personally, like I say, control the controllables. I worry about the things that I can control and I don't worry about the things that I can't. That seems to help, works for me.
Fantastic. And Bhav?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. It's something close to my heart. I think I've mentioned that next week on Friday, 8 o'clock, we have an amazing good Maruk, and we're going to be talking about this because it's a subject close to my heart, and I'll disclose why at that time I don't know, start unloading. But as men and in dentistry, we really struggle with emotional injuries. the GDC letter comes in, or we see the GDC form, or someone says something. So emotionally we're injured. So we're not taught how to emotionally heal and recover. And during COVID, what I found was it was about having a routine. So I always wake up 5:30 in the morning. For the first 1 hour, don't put your mobile phone on. And as you phase out of alpha wave patterns, you have to really focus your mind on positivity, gratitude, appreciation. Think of all the things you're excited about in life. So as the plane takes off and your brain starts to kick in, you've put lots of positivity. Think about Muhammad Ali or great people and their self-talk. Because as dentists, because we're perfectionists, we have a very negative self-loathing pattern. So we need to just knock those straight out. And then you need to find moments for stillness. So, you know, I have an exercise where COVID was amazing because the birds were chirping. So I'd always just observe what birds can I hear? And you're straight into mindfulness. And even you need to have a routine. Otherwise life just consumes you. So that routine could be spending 10 minutes with this child reading this story, 15 minutes doing this. And the most critical thing is half an hour before you sleep. What the greats understand is they protect their energy and their state before sleeping, because sleeping is where all the recovery happens. So yet again, focusing on what were the amazing things about the day? What were the gifts that day? What were you grateful for? What are you appreciative about? And if you can flip that balance all into that positive mindset where all you see is God's glory and divinity and everything, it's hard to have stress or that low vibrational energy because you're just buzzing up here. And if we can bring these practices, you know, stress and anxiety just come straight off you. It's quite easy.
Beautiful. That's why I call him the guru.
No.
So look, next week, I would definitely recommend, I'm going to be tuning in. It's something which me and Bhatt spoke about. I thought it'd be good to spread the message out there. I'll email you guys about it as well. And I look forward to that.
I'm very open. When I was young, I had a speech impediment. So every week I had counseling. So I knew there was something wrong. My ability to go into anxiety was such, I was actually hypnotized for my BDS Viva exam. So Professor Bedford had to hypnotize me because he thought I was actually going to just become overwhelmed with dopamine in my body. Around 6 years ago, my nurse thought I was having a heart attack. It was actually an anxiety attack. And as Andy was saying that, we have a myriad of challenges and problems in our life. And we don't talk enough about strategies and solutions to overcome that, because if we can talk about these things and share experiences and what's working and what's not, I think that's probably the gift that COVID gives us.
Beautiful. Amazing. So I look forward to next week's webinar and to hear more from you as well, Bhatt. Kish, how do you deal with stress? What are you doing? Mental well-being?
So I always say, like, we should always focus on outcomes and not obstacles. I think a lot of us, when we feel like there's a problem, we focus on that problem, and what happens as a result is there's just more problems. Whereas I always say that if we have a problem, as I said, there's always a solution, but focus on possibilities. So during this whole time, you know, we've been at home, been with the kids, so there's always possibilities, there's always opportunities there that I would never have had. And I'm always trying to remember what I'm grateful for. So I look at it normally, Jin, you know what it was like. We were going at 200 miles per hour on the road, visiting practices, clinically in the practice, working, doing work when we used to come home. But I've just managed to manage my time now so that I still get to spend time with my kids. And I would say focus on possibilities and you will always get opportunities. And that is the main thing that I keep reminding myself every day. And more opportunities just keep presenting themselves. And that keeps my stress levels very low.
Fantastic. And I would also say, get the right support network around you. So we're fortunate we've got a strong network around us. We're constantly talking to each other, making sure, keep it in check. Because as a career, it's stressful. And we're all going through a stressful time. A lot of positivity in the group here. So if anyone wants to reach out to any of these guys, you know, I know Bhatt is on Instagram, Alchemy, Shaz is on Instagram, Andy is on Instagram as well. Paul is on, don't know what you're on.
Okay.
You can write letters to Paul.
You know, it's funny. I mean, perhaps I'm doing the industry a disservice. It might just be our firm, but law firms are traditionally just so behind the curve with all this sort of stuff. Or maybe it's just me.
Listen, if you want to reach out to Paul, I'll give you his email address as well. Reach out to us. But I hope everyone enjoyed tonight. Again, a big thank you to all our panelists, to Paul Shinwell, Shaz, Memon, Bhatt, and Andy Acton. Genuinely appreciate your time, but not just for today, over the last 10, 15 years since we started. And a lot of you young guys out there thinking of buying a practice, I remember it like yesterday. I was working as an associate. I was only 6 months out of VT. Had an opportunity to buy a practice, which Paul Shinwell was representing us, and had to get a bank loan. The bank manager came to my practice. I was in my hoodie and tracksuit. Richard in a 3-piece suit sits down and goes, "Jin, what kind of rate would you like, fixed or variable?" And I had no clue what he was talking about. I said to him, "Where do I sign, bruv?" I just signed away. And I've been there, we've all been there. Make sure you keep on growing, get the support network. But most important thing, stay positive. What everyone has shown, and we did not trial run this before, I didn't feed them answers. Everyone has shown is we are in a career that is going to do well. So keep positive, adapt yourselves. Like all these guys are saying, I mean, myself and Kish are learning technology. We only joined Instagram a year and a half ago. TikTok, Shaz is saying, "Jin, get your dancing videos up." Shaz is sending me stuff, but we're learning. A lot of you guys are the experts. So we can all learn off each other and grow as well. So guys, we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much. I will upload this onto our YouTube channel. Next week is our final Monday Night Live. I mean, when we started this, I remember chatting to Shaz. I'm not one for webinars. I'm very much, be it live and direct, in your face learning. But myself and Shaz, we said, "Jin, let's do it." We've had over 8,000 people register for all our webinars. We've gone to 42 different countries now with our webinars. It's been fantastic. And the whole thing is to get the education out there. Anything we're learning, we're there to share. We're not going to keep it to ourselves. If we're sharing anything, we've done a lot of good stuff. We've made a lot of mistakes. And it's about sharing about our clinical experience and our practice business experience as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to us, make sure you do. The most important thing is stay safe, keep smiling, keep happy, and I appreciate tonight. Kish, any words?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what you said. I think we're here to help, and it's all about that support network. You know, education, a lot of, especially as dentists, we always focus on education as it being a formal way of learning, but informal ways utilizing those around you. So we're all here. That's what we're here for. Reach out to us whenever you need, and form your support network, and make sure you're always speaking to people who are your peers to help you through your journey.
Brilliant. So again, Paul, Shaz, Andy, Bhatt, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Very good.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Everyone, and we'll catch you next week on the final one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, bye.